You start it then?
You can start me.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Shrinvatam Swakatha Krishna Punyashravana Kirtana Hridyantasto Hyabhadrani Vidunoti Suhritsatam Nastya Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavada Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Om Atnana Timirandhasya Nananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yatkripatvamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1, Text 8. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Sammitam Adhitavan Dvaparadau Vidur Dvaipayanat Aham. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Sammitam Adhitavan Dvaparadau Vidur Dvaipayanat Aham. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Sammitam Adhitavan Dvaparadau Vidur Dvaipayanat Aham. Idam, this Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, Nama, of the name, Puranam, Vedic supplement, Brahma Samhitam, approved as the essence of the Vedas, Adhitavan, studied, Dwapara Adav, at the end of Dwapara Yuga, Pithu, from my father, Dvaipayanat, Dvaipayana Vyasadeva, Aham, myself. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. At the end of the Dwapara Yuga, I studied this great supplement of Vedic literature named Srimad Bhagavatam, which is equal to all the Vedas, from my father, Srila Dvaipayana Vyasadeva. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The statement made by Srila Shukadeva Goswami that the topmost transcendentalist, who is beyond the jurisdiction of regulations and restrictions, mainly takes to the task of hearing about and glorifying the personality of Godhead, is verified by his personal example. Shukadeva Goswami, being a recognized liberated soul and the topmost transcendentalist, was accepted by all of the topmost sages present in the meeting during the last 7 days of Maharaj Parikshit. He cites from the example of his life that he himself was attracted by the transcendental activities of the Lord, and he studied Srimad Bhagavatam from his great father, Sri Dvaipayana Vyasadeva. Srimad Bhagavatam, or for that matter, any other scientific literature, cannot be studied at home by one's own intellectual capacity. Medical books of anatomy or physiology are available in the market, but no one can become a qualified medical practitioner simply by reading such books at home. One has to be admitted to the medical college and study the books under the guidance of learned professors. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam, the postgraduate study of the science of Godhead, can only be learned by studying it at the feet of a realized soul like Srila Vyasadeva. Although Shukadeva Goswami was a liberated soul from the very day of his birth, he still had to take lessons of Srimad Bhagavatam from his great father Vyasadeva, who compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam under the instruction of another great soul, Sri Narada Muni. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed a learned Brahmanas to study Srimad Bhagavatam from a personal Bhagavata. Srimad Bhagavatam is based on the transcendental name, form, attributes, pastimes, entourage, and variegatedness of the Supreme Person, and it is spoken by the incarnation of the personality of Godhead, Srila Vyasadeva. Pastimes of the Lord are executed in cooperation with his pure devotees, and consequently, historical incidences are mentioned in this great literature because they are related to Krishna. It is called Brahma Samhidam because it is the sound representative of Lord Krishna. Like the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavad Gita is the sound incarnation of the Lord because it is spoken by the Supreme Lord. And Srimad Bhagavatam is the sound representative of the Lord because it was spoken by the incarnation of the Lord about the activities of the Lord. As stated in the beginning of this book, it is the essence of the Vedic desire tree and the natural commentation on the Brahma Sutras, the topmost philosophical thesis on the subject matter of Brahman. Vyasadeva appeared at the end of Dwapara Yuga as the son of Satyavati, and therefore the word Dwaparadau, or the beginning of Dwapara Yuga, in this context means just prior to the beginning of Kali Yuga. The logic of this statement, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, is comparable to that of calling the upper portion of the tree the beginning. The root of the tree is the beginning of the tree, but in common knowledge, the upper portion of the tree is first seen. In that way, the end of the tree is accepted as its beginning. So, if you will bear with me, I would like to recite some of the previous verses. They are all such amazing, fantastic verses, and with your permission, I'm going to recite them because it's only few verses. We are only at the 8th right now. So the context of Maharaja Parikshit asking the question, what is the duty of the person who is about to die, what one should hear and what one should not. So that is the question. And then there is all this reply to that, glorification of the process of bhakti emphasized. What one should not hear, what one should hear. That is very distinctly stated in some of these verses. So the verses itself, they're starting with 1. Sri Shuka Uvacha Variyan Eshate Prashna Krito Lokahitam Nrupa Atmavit Sammada Pumsham Shrotavyadi Shuyapara. So, what is the prime subject matter for hearing? That is approved by the transcendentalist. What is the prime subject matter for anyone for that matter? Those who are born are bound to die, and this reality is staring all of us. These days, it is so very obvious. Anytime, anything can happen. Of course, it can happen at any time to anybody, at any point of time. But this fundamental question, what is our duty? Every single moment of our life, any intelligent person should be asking that question. So the second verse says, Shrotavyadhini Rajendra Nrinam Shanti Sahasrasaha Apasyatam Atmatattvam Griheshu Grihamedhinam. So Grihamedhis, they have other subject matters to hear. They're not really interested in hearing the right subject matter. And the next one says, Nidraya Hriyate Naktam Vyavayena cha vavaya Divachate Hayarajan Kudumba Bharanena va. So this type of householders, what do? They simply waste their time in sleeping, eating, mating, and all that, and maintaining the family members without even realizing the futility of that. Dehapatya kalatradish atmasainnye shatha asatvapi tesham pramatto nidhanam pashyan apina pashyati. So even though they know that all of this is going to be taken away, nothing is going to stay with us, they are devoid of Atma Tattva. They don't inquire into the problems of life, the true nature of the self. And so they put so much of faith and trust in that which is temporary, which is part of our own bodily creation, our own family members. Fallible soldiers is the word that is used. Tasmat Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishwaro Hari Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha Smartavyasche Chadabhayam. So what one should do instead is glorification of the Supreme Lord. He is to be glorified by each and every one. And that leads to verse 6. Etavan sankhya yogabhyam swadharma parinishtaya janmalabha parapumsham ante narayana smriti. Prabhupada writes, the highest perfection of human life achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duty, it is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life. Sorry, I think didn't move. 1 second. The 7th verse. Idam, sorry. Prayena munayo rajan nivritta vidhi sedata nairgunyasta ramante sma gunanu kathane hare. So even the topmost transcendentalists, who are above these rules and regulations, or over the regulative principles of rules and restrictions, they take pleasure in describing the glories of the Lord. And there is something very specifically mentioned here. What do? They take pleasure in describing the glories of the Lord. And that is very key here. And that leads to today's verse. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Sammitam Adhitavan Dwaparadau Vidur Dvaipayanat Aham. So at the end of Dwapara Yuga, I studied this great supplement of Vedic literature named Srimad Bhagavatam, which is equal to all the Vedas, from my father, Dvaipayana Vyasadeva. Srila Prabhupada, Omatnana Timirandhasya Nananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So here in this purport, Srila Prabhupada makes it very clear about the importance of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from self-realized souls. so much has been, so many devotees have spoken this verse. It's such a wonderful verse. Now, going back to the previous one, I thought I will touch upon the previous verse. Srila Prabhupada here uses the word mainly the topmost transcendentalist. Mainly, he uses the word mainly. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur uses the word generally. So what it means is, generally means those who are Jivan Muktas, liberated souls. Generally speaking, that doesn't mean all of them. Generally speaking, there is a distinction. Even though there are many self-realized souls, they belong to different categories. Now, first of all, this verse is pointing that the perfection of our life, it is to realize the sweetness and the qualities and the form of the Lord. So that is superior to merging into Brahmajyoti. So this is, I'm talking about the previous verse. So it is speaking about the realization of the Lord, and those who are situated beyond the gunas, those who are beyond the rules and regulations, they are not practicing the rules and regulations, such self-realized souls, some of them, such liberated souls, some of them take pleasure in the glorification of the Lord. This is very, very special. While some of them, because generally speaking, it's not like everybody takes pleasure in glorification of the Lord. Those among those who are the transcendentalists, quite a few of them are interested in merging into Brahmajyoti. So merging into Brahman is their goal. So they don't take pleasure in the glorification of the Lord, whereas the devotees of the Lord, who are very few, that is why it is stated by Srila Prabhupada, mainly the topmost transcendentalists, those are the devotees of the Lord, and they take pleasure in the glorification. That leads us to this verse, which says that this scripture concerning the Supreme Lord is equal to Lord himself. And I learned it from my father, Srila Vyasadeva. So Bhagavatam, it means it is spoken by the Lord, or it is concerning the Lord. And Idam Bhagavatam, the meaning of the word Idam Bhagavatam is, this work is about the Lord. The scripture is about the Lord. And the scripture is full of the pastimes of the Lord. And how is this revealed? This is revealed by question and answer methodology. And question and answer methodology, example, so Shukadeva Goswami is, Maharaja Parikshit is here asking question to Shukadeva Goswami, and there are many conversations within conversations. And by this question and answer method, this is revealed. And Puranam Brahma Samhita, so it was taught to him by Vyasadeva. And so the other one point that Srila Prabhupada makes towards the end of this is the end of Dwapara Yuga, the beginning of the last part of Dwapara Yuga. That is what it means. The example given is that the tip of the tree comes out first, even though the root is the beginning. So basically, Vyasadeva was present just before Krishna himself appeared, because Vyasadeva appeared from Satyavati, and that incident happened just before Krishna's appearance, and it was towards the end of Dwapara Yuga. So it is, what it is meant by that last sentence is the end of the last part of Dwapara Yuga. This was spoken. So now, the discussion actually leads us to the interesting point about the relishing, or how the devotees of the Lord enjoy glorifying about him, about his personality, about his qualities, and relishing the sweetness. That is how they recite. So when such devotees glorify Krishna, Krishna himself is magnetically attracted. So that is the main point I wanted to discuss here today. And there are many examples of this in Srimad Bhagavatam itself. I thought I will focus on two from Bhagavatam and one another example as well. So it is stated there are so many verses which glorifies Krishna himself is speaking, that how he gets attracted when he hears that kind of a glorification from his pure devotees. And there is a verse which most of us have heard many times from, it is from the, which Purana is this? It is from the Padma Purana. And I came across another verse similar, exactly similar to that in Adi Purana also. So I will read this verse. You are familiar with this. Padma Purana states, Naham tishtami vaikunde yoginam hridayeshu va tatra tishtami narada yatra gayanti madbhakta. Naham tishtami vaikunde yoginam hridayeshu va tatra tishtami narada yatra gayanti madbhakta. O Narada, I am not in Vaikuntha, nor am I in the hearts of the yogis. Very interesting. I remain where my devotees glorify my name, form, and qualities and transcendental pastimes. Now, the same message is given in Adi Purana, and Adi Purana states, Naham basami vaikunde yoginam hridayanacha madbhakta yatra gayanti tatra tishtami narada. Sounds exactly the same. The meaning also is the same. I live neither in Vaikuntha nor in the heart of the yogis. I go and sit where my devotees sing. And another very wonderful quote from Adi Purana, it says, Gita vacha mama namani natyen mama sannidhau idam bravimi te satyam kritoham tena charjuna. Gita vacha mama namani natyen mama sannidhau idam bravimi te satyam kritoham tena charjuna. Gita vacha mama namani rudanti mama sannidhau teshamaham parikrito nanyakrito janardana. Gita vacha mama namani rudanti mama sannidhau teshamaham parikrito nanyakrito janardana. Listen, O Arjuna, those who dance or weep before me while chanting my name, I am sold out to them, as I am sold out to no one else. And another verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd Canto, 8th chapter. Shrimnata Shraddhaya Nityam Gratasya Swacheshtitam Kalena Nati Dirghena Bhagavan Vishade Hridi. Those who always narrate or listen Krishna katha with faith in their hearts, Bhagavan enters soon. So where does Bhagavan enter? This is the very interesting point about it. So a very finest example of this given in Srimad Bhagavatam is that of Gopi Gita. And we have heard Gopi Gita, so many classes have been given on Gopi Gita. So it really talks about the influence of the song of the devotees, how how the song of the devotees influences Krishna. That is very clearly shown in Gopi Gita. So as we all know, it was Rasa Purnima time as it is described. So Krishna was engaged in various pastimes with the gopis, and suddenly Krishna disappeared. So the gopis went around the forest. We all know they were searching for him. They were asking to the birds and the bees and the trees and the creepers and to the animals. They were searching everywhere for Krishna, and they were very tired. They couldn't find him. They were exhausted. They were drained, and they were depressed. They were sad, and they couldn't bear the separation from Krishna. And so, and at that point, what they did was they went to the bank of Yamuna. And as we know, Krishna is Yamuna Tira, Vanachari. So they, through this intense suffering, they thought the only thing they could do is simply sing about Krishna. So what the gopis did, they went and sat on the banks of Yamuna, and they started singing the glories of Krishna. So they were singing in a very melodious voice, and immediately their song touched the heart of Krishna, and he couldn't remain hiding anymore. So he made himself visible. He appeared with a smile on his face. So the gopis felt as though their life returned back to them. And immediately one of the gopi took her orni, which is like a fragrant shawl, from her body and spread it on the shore of Yamuna. And this orni that was covering the gopi's body was tinted with the kumkum, which was decorating her body. And please, can you close the door? Please close the door. No, Peter, please go. I'm on the class.
I will be quiet.
No. So the gopi took the orni from her body and spread it on the ground, and immediately Krishna sat there. Immediately Krishna sat on that orni. And Srimad Bhagavatam says that Bhagavan Sri Krishna, who does not agree to sit even in the heart of the yogis, purified by lifelong sadhana, he refuses to sit in the heart of the yogis who have tried to purify their heart by lifelong sadhana. He immediately sat on this orni of the gopi, and this orni was stained with kumkum from her body, and he was completely charmed. He became a slave to the gopis, and he did not hesitate to sit. So that verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, it says, Tatropavisto Bhagavan sa Ishwaro Yogeshwarantar Hridi Kalpitasana Chakasa Gopi Parishat Gadhor Chitas Trailokya Lakshmi Kapadam Vapurdadhat. Tatropavisto Bhagavan sa Ishwaro Yogeshwarantar Hridi Kalpitasana Chakasa Gopi Parishat Gadhor Chitas Trailokya Lakshmi Kapadam Vapurdadhat. Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for whom the great masters of mystic meditation arrange a seat within their hearts, took his seat in the assembly of gopis. His transcendental body, the exclusive abode of beauty and opulence within the three worlds, shone brilliantly as the gopis worshipped him. This is the verse. So that tells us that Krishna becomes magnetically attracted when he hears the singing of his glories by pure devotees. So another example, which is very familiar to us, is the pastime of Rohini, Mother Rohini reciting the pastime of the Lord. So briefly stating that, but there is a very key point here, which many times we don't pay attention to. So in Dwaraka, when Krishna, one night when he was sleeping, in his sleep, he cried out for Radha, and he was shedding tears, and hearing which Rukmini Devi comes, and she touches Krishna's feet and wakes him up and asks him why he was crying. And Krishna said, simply, he just answered, I don't know why I'm crying. And so that didn't satisfy the queen. And she went and she discussed among other queens, why is it Krishna is crying in his sleep? Who is that lady who is torturing Krishna? Who is that lady who has captivated Krishna's heart in such a way that even in his sleep, he cannot forget her? And we, the queens, we are in no way inferior to anybody, and we are serving Krishna very nicely. And yet, he is thinking about that person all day and night. And so Rukmini Devi said that I have heard about Srimati Radharani and Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, and it most probably it must be her, Srimati Radharani, who Krishna is thinking about. So then there was a discussion among all these queens, and they decided to go to Mother Rohini. And so next day, when Krishna and Balaram, they were in the courthouse, holding their court at that time, they went to Rohini and asked her to recite these pastimes of Krishna, his childhood pastimes with gopis. Rohini agreed to do that, but she realized that she is the mother and she is speaking about Krishna's Rasalila pastimes, and that is not appropriate. And so because of that, she put Subhadra at the door and told her to watch out. And we all know this story, but I'm getting to some point about this. So, and Mother Rohini clearly knew if Vrindavan pastimes are recited, Krishna cannot resist himself. It charms Krishna's heart so much that he will be magnetically attracted. So, Mother Rohini was seated in the middle. All the queens were sitting around her, and she started narrating these pastimes. So, naturally, Krishna and Balaram felt attracted, and they came. And they saw Subhadra guarding the door, and Subhadra refused to let them go in, and they respected that. But they were listening from outside the door, and it is stated that the Sattvika Bhavas appeared in their body. These are signs and symptoms of love. And when Rohini was describing the complete forgetfulness of Radha, and a complete self-forgetfulness of Radharani. That's what it was, which expressed the intensity of Radha's love for Krishna. As she was describing that is when all the Sattvika Bhavas appeared. Balaram's body transformed, all the arms and legs got withdrawn into the body, and the eyes were bulging out. The same thing happened to Krishna, to Subhadra. All of this happened. And it is stated that even the Sudarshan Chakra, the round Sudarshan Chakra, it became elongated. Everything was frozen. And at that apt moment, Narada Muni was visiting Krishna. He went to the assembly hall, and they guided him to go to Mother Rohini's palace. And Narada Muni came to see what's going on there, and he could see the stunned forms of the three lords. And then Rohini changed the tune of her narration, and he started describing Srimati Radharani's feeling of distress, feeling of separation. And when she started describing that, So the first part was more about the how Radha became self-forgetful, how she became so self-forgetful in her love for Krishna. Now they were describing, Rohini, Mother Rohini was describing the Radha's distress after Krishna left. Now hearing this, all of their normal forms came back, to normal. And Narada was witnessing this. He had never seen anything like this. And so Narada Muni will request the Lord, to explain what this is, and Krishna will explain to him what it is. So basically what has happened was, it was the influence of the narration of Krishna Katha. Rohini was the narration, the quality of the narration of the Katha by Rohini, relating to Krishna's love pastimes in Vrindavan. That is the fact which melted Krishna's form, nothing else. So, what is Lord Jagannath? Lord Jagannath is actually, the Lord Jagannath's form should remind us the spell that Krishna Katha puts on Krishna himself. The spell of Krishna Katha by a pure devotee, what that puts on himself, that is Lord Jagannath. So I will conclude this with one more contemporary example. We would think that all of this is only somewhere in the past, or nothing happens here now, but so not true. Once I would say about 80 years ago, there was a saintly personality by name Avadha Dasa Baba, who lived in Vrindavan. And Avadha Dasa Baba, he lived 100 years, but he left his body in 1937. And I think he was 110 years when he passed away. So what was his bhajana? His bhajana was simply worshipping Srimad Bhagavatam. Simply worshipping Srimad Bhagavatam was his bhajana. And he will read Srimad Bhagavatam, recite Srimad Bhagavatam. He will keep Srimad Bhagavatam on the altar. He will worship Srimad Bhagavatam as the deity. So he will wrap Srimad Bhagavatam in a silken cloth when it is not being read. During winter, he will wrap it in a shawl. During summer, he will fan Srimad Bhagavatam. When he was not reading, he will be meditating, and he will offer every bhoga, just as you would offer to the deity of Krishna, and he will take only the remnants of that offering. That was his lifestyle. And so he would read every single minute. His life was revolving around Srimad Bhagavatam. So you can imagine that what type of a devotee he was, nothing ordinary about him. So sometimes he would recite from this Bhagavatam, and he will turn the pages, and he doesn't have to look at the pages. He knows which page contains which verse. So he will be simply turning the pages, and he will be constantly reciting. And when he was reciting, he was meditating upon Krishna's pastimes. So he literally saw Krishna's pastimes, he participated in it. And kind of the people who lived around that time kind of knew that Krishna was visible to him. He was such a saintly person. So hearing about this one day, one young man came wanting to meet with this person. And he came to the ashram, and he has heard that if one could get the remnants of the food from this saintly person, one can see Krishna. So he was very eager for that. But this also teaches us a lesson. One cannot prematurely do anything like that. So he came, and he came at a time when this Avadha Dasa Babaji was taking his noon prasada, and he went straight to meet him. And all the disciples of this person told him, to the young man, don't do that, because he's taking prasada. But this person did not listen to them. He went straight to the Baba, and he sat in front of him, and he asked, Baba, can I have some of your remnants? And this personality, he was so absorbed, Avadha Baba, he was so absorbed in meditating upon Krishna Leela. He was participating in Krishna's pastimes, that he did not even hear what this man asked. So this person, the young man, he thought that this personality was ignoring him. And so what he did was he stretched his hand, grabbed some prasadam from Baba's plate. He was about to put it in his mouth, and this Babaji, he came out of his meditation, he took hold of this man's hand. And what he did was, this young man, he immediately transferred the food from the right hand to the left hand, and he threw it in his mouth before he could be stopped. And as soon as the prasadam went in his mouth, he became completely unconscious, fell on the ground. So he was unconscious almost the whole day. And that day evening, as usual, this Baba was conducting his evening Srimad Bhagavatam reading with his disciples, and still this young man was still unconscious. And so Baba asked these young people his disciples to conduct a kirtan, and they all started singing. And right in the middle of that, the young man regained his consciousness. And he was so apologetic. He fell at the feet of this Baba and cried and begged for his forgiveness, and said he does not want to go anywhere. He wants to be his disciple. He wants to serve him. Please give the shelter. And the kind-hearted personality this Baba was, he said that I will do that. And he took charge of this man's spiritual life and guided him and took care of him. So sometime later, some other devotees asked him what happened when he took the prasadam. And he said, as soon as the prasadam touched his mouth, he was transported into a different realm, in the spiritual realm, and he could see the midday Bhojan Leela of Krishna. And there he could see Krishna. It was a wonderful, joyous pastime that was taking place. Krishna, and next to Krishna, this Babaji was seated, and all the gopas were surrounding them, and everyone was having a wonderful time. And in the middle of this joyous taking of prasadam, he could see that Krishna was taking prasadam from his plate and feeding this Baba. The Baba was taking prasadam from his plate without even knowing. They were feeding each other. And this is what he saw. So this is what kind of a person this Avadha Baba was. And so naturally, when he was reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that Krishna used to visit there, but nobody else could see. And there was a small incident which was somewhere recorded, that he could see, this Babaji could see Krishna circumambulating Srimad Bhagavatam after the reading was over, because this person's connection with Krishna is such, he could see. So usually, what is it? The object of worship. Krishna is our object of worship. Object of worship don't worship something else. And so instead of that, you can see in this case that Krishna appreciates Srimad Bhagavatam, more than himself. So that teaches us that Bhagavatam is not only Krishna himself, not only Krishna's words, it is also the manifestation of Krishna's love or prema. So we all think that love for Godhead or prema, it is the end for us. We are finite souls, we are not infinite. But Krishna himself, he is omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, he is the source of everything. And his own goal also is this special prema or love. And therefore, that is manifestation. Bhagavatam is manifestation of Krishna's prema. And therefore, Krishna appreciates Srimad Bhagavatam so much. It is, in one sense, you can say even superior to himself. He's worshipping Srimad Bhagavatam. So with one last sentence, I will stop. In Gopal Champu, Jiva Goswami writes, what is Krishna doing in the spiritual abode? There are two poets who are constantly reciting Krishna katha there, Madhukanta and Snigdakanta. This is described in Gopal Chambu. What does Madhukanta and Snigdakanta do? They are just reciting Krishna's glories. And Krishna is fully relishing that in his abode. And this is an ongoing pastime. Gopal Chambu describes this. So how wonderful it is, how Krishna gets so attracted to this recitation about his pastime. And that is the glory of Srimad Bhagavatam. So I will just pause it here. If anyone would like to add some comments or questions or anything.
Hare Krishna, Mathaji.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you so much for a very beautiful presentation, Mathaji. Big question. Krishna Katha is so nectarian and so relishable. But then maybe people like me, or even the so-called transcendentalists, like that the verses that you quoted, the yogis and the other impersonalists, they don't get attracted to those things. So what is the because these are given in the scriptures. Even the Krishna himself is telling that he is going to be present wherever his glories are sung. So why does people doesn't get attracted to those things, Mataji? Still they get attracted to the impersonal thing? And
yeah. Yes, everyone has got their own attraction, isn't it? I think one thing I remember hearing is that you receive it from someone who has it, someone who has that taste. When you receive it from such a person, it is easier. It is not something that we obtain by our parishrama alone. And that is where the mercy of Guru comes into the picture. I recently read a verse, I don't have it in front of me, which said that all my sadhana, all my endeavors, I think this was a verse quoted in one of the Srimad Bhagavatam purports by Srila Prabhupada, but I think it was written by Sridhara Swami or so. All my endeavors in my sadhana practice, everything, it becomes nothing of importance if I have your mercy. So if one receives such a blessing or a feeling of that blessing coming from a saintly personality, one who has got such taste for Krishna katha, one who is pleasing Krishna every moment of his or her life, it becomes easier. And also that means what kind of association one keeps. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had instructed us to stay away from impersonalists. They can steal away our devotion to Krishna. So if we don't have it, we should seek for it from those who have it. That's my understanding. I think there are others here. I think I saw at one point, I think I have seen Gopal Hari Prabhu somewhere here. If he's still here, maybe he could give additional comments. Maybe he left for work.
Yeah, Prabhu dropped.
Yeah. But that is something which comes to my mind because it is said that in that incident of Gopi Gita, Krishna came and sat on that shawl of the Gopi without any hesitation. But millions of years of rigorous practice, the yogis who are involved in that, Krishna does not even go anywhere near. All he's looking for is some genuine love. Where do you get that genuine love? Only by association with such people who have it.
Yes.
Yeah. Not sure if anybody else have anything to say. I think we went beyond the time quite a bit. If there isn't anything else, we can close it, I think.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.